My boyfriend refused to marry me after I got fat and told his friends that he couldn't be tied to someone who let herself go. So, I got rid of my weight and dumped him. We met when I was 22. I weighed 120 pounds. Justin wouldn't shut up about how perfect I was. "You're like a model," he'd say. "All my friends are jealous." He'd grab my waist in public, show me off like a trophy, take photos from angles that made me look thinnest, post them with captions like, "My girl's a 10." I thought it was love. I was an idiot. 3 years in, I brought up marriage. "We should wait," he said, "till we're more financially stable." Made sense. We were both still building careers. I was making $40,000 at a nonprofit. He was making $60,000 at his corporate job. Year 4, I mentioned it again. "Maybe next year," he said. "No rush, right? We're basically married already." Except we weren't. His brother got engaged that year to his girlfriend of 18 months. Justin said, "They're rushing into it." Year 5, my dad died. Sudden heart attack at 53. I was destroyed. Food became my only comfort. Mom's casseroles every night, crying into pints of ice cream, stress eating through grief counseling. Depression made me exhausted. Stopped going to yoga. Stopped cooking healthy meals. 40 pounds in 8 months, size 4 to size 12. My clothes stopped fitting. I lived in sweatpants. Justin noticed immediately. "Babe, you're getting a little thick." Then, "You should hit the gym." Then, "This is embarrassing for me." Then, "My coworkers are asking what happened to you." I tried explaining about my dad, the depression, the grief counselor saying weight gain was normal during trauma. "Everyone has problems," he said. "My dad had cancer, and I didn't get fat. You're just using grief as an excuse." He stopped touching me. Separate blankets in bed. No sex for months. When I'd reach for him, he'd say he wasn't in the mood. "Maybe if you looked like you used to," he said once. He started going out more, coming home late, always freshly showered, phone face down, working late, but his car was spotted at bars downtown. I knew but didn't want to know. 6 months ago, our 6th anniversary, I set up a romantic dinner. Candles, his favorite meal, new dress that actually fit. "Justin, we need to talk about our future." He put down his fork. "There is no future if you look like this." I froze. "Excuse me? I'm not marrying someone who doesn't take care of herself. You're not the woman I fell in love with. That woman was beautiful. That woman made me look good. This," he gestured at me, "makes me look like I settled. I'm the same person." "No, you're twice the person." He laughed at his own joke. "Look, lose the weight, then we'll talk about marriage. But right now, I'm embarrassed to be seen with you. Do you know what people think when they see us together? They think I'm desperate. They wonder what's wrong with me that I'm with someone who looks like you." Tears were falling. "Someone who looks like me? Fat, Amy. The word is fat. And I didn't sign up for fat. I signed up for the hot girl who did yoga and counted calories and made my friends jealous. So either find her again or I'll find someone else who looks like her." I joined a gym the next day. 5 a.m. Mostly empty except for serious athletes. That's where I met Antonio, the trainer. 6'3", built like a sculpture, kind eyes. "First time?" he asked. I nodded, embarrassed in my tight workout clothes. "We all start somewhere," he said. "You showing up is already winning." He offered to train me. 2 weeks in, he asked, "What's your goal?" "To lose 40 pounds. "Why?" "My boyfriend won't marry me until I do." Antonio stopped spotting my bench press. "Your boyfriend sounds like trash. But hey, his loss will be someone else's gain." Every morning, 5 a.m., Antonio and I trained. He taught me to deadlift, squat, bench, introduced me to meal prep, never shamed me when I struggled. Just said, "Tomorrow you'll be better." 4 months in, I'd lost 35 pounds. Justin suddenly got interested again. Started touching my waist, suggesting date nights, buying me clothes. "Size 6. Getting there," he'd say. "Keep going." Posted a photo of us with the caption, "Proud of my girl's journey." His friends commented with fire emojis. 5 months in, I'd lost all 40 pounds plus gained muscle. Size 4 again, but stronger. Justin planned a surprise dinner at the steakhouse where we'd had our first date, wore his best suit, kept checking his pocket. I knew what was coming. After appetizers, he stood up. The whole restaurant could see. Got down on one knee, pulled out a Tiffany box. 2-carat diamond. "Amy," he said loudly, making sure everyone heard, "you've proven you can be the wife I deserve. You've shown dedication, discipline, and the ability to be the woman I fell in love with again. Will you marry me?" The restaurant was silent. Phones out, recording. I looked at the ring, at him. No. His smile froze. The restaurant stayed quiet for maybe 3 seconds. Then whispers started. Justin's face went from confused to red. His jaw got tight. He was still down on one knee holding that ring box. I could see phones everywhere. At least 12 people recording. Some lady at the table next to us had her phone up recording the whole thing. The waiter who'd been bringing our food stopped halfway across the room. Justin stood up fast. The ring box snapped shut. He grabbed my wrist across the table. Not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough that I felt trapped. I pulled my hand back and stood up. My chair scraped loud against the floor. Everyone was staring. I grabbed my purse from the back of my chair. Justin started talking, but his voice came out weird and tight. He asked what I was doing, told me to sit back down, said we needed to talk about this. I walked toward the exit. My legs felt shaky, but I kept moving. Justin followed me. His voice got louder. He said I was embarrassing him, asked if I was serious right now, demanded I come back to the table. The restaurant manager appeared near the door. She was an older woman with gray hair pulled back. She stepped in front of me and asked if everything was okay. Her eyes looked concerned. I told her I was fine but needed to leave right away. She nodded and moved aside. Justin tried to follow me out, but the manager put her hand up and asked him to please return to his table. I pushed through the door into the cold night air. My car was parked 3 blocks away. I walked fast. My heels clicked on the sidewalk. I could hear Justin yelling my name from the restaurant entrance, but I didn't turn around. I got to my car and my hands shook. So bad I dropped my keys twice before I got the door unlocked. I climbed in and locked the doors. Started the engine. Justin wasn't following me. I pulled out of the parking spot and drove straight to Haley's apartment across town. The drive took 20 minutes. I didn't cry. I just gripped the steering wheel and focused on the road. Haley lived in a small building near the college where we'd met 8 years ago. I parked in front and texted her that I was outside. She opened her apartment door before I even knocked, took one look at my face and pulled me inside without saying anything. Her apartment smelled like vanilla candles. She guided me to her couch, asked if I wanted water or tea. I shook my head. Then I started crying. Not quiet tears, big ugly sobs that made my whole body shake. Haley sat next to me and put her arm around my shoulders. She didn't ask what happened, just let me cry. After maybe 10 minutes I could breathe again. I told her Justin proposed. She waited. I said I told him no. She squeezed my shoulder and said good. My phone started buzzing in my purse. Once, twice, then constant buzzing. I pulled it out. Text messages filling my screen. Justin's name, his brother, his mom. Numbers I didn't recognize. The buzzing wouldn't stop. Haley took my phone and looked at the screen. She scrolled through some messages. Her face got angry. She turned the phone toward me. Justin's message said I was an ungrateful bitch who embarrassed him in public after everything he did for me. Said I owed him an explanation. Called me selfish and cruel. Haley asked if I wanted to read the rest. I shook my head. She held down the power button and turned off my phone. Set it on her coffee table face down. The apartment got quiet without the buzzing. Haley asked if I wanted to stay the night. I nodded. She got me pajamas and a spare toothbrush. I changed in her bathroom, washed my face, looked at myself in the mirror. My makeup was smeared. My eyes were red and puffy. But I didn't look sad. I looked relieved. We stayed up talking until 3 in the morning. Haley made tea. We sat on her couch with blankets. I told her everything Justin said over the past year. The comments about my weight, how he stopped touching me, the way he only got interested again after I lost the pounds. Haley listened to all of it. Then she started pointing things out. Said Justin only ever complimented my looks, never my personality or brain or kindness. Said he withdrew love and affection as punishment when I didn't meet his standards. Said that wasn't love, that was control. She reminded me how he used to get mad if I wore clothes he didn't like, how he always wanted me to post certain photos on social media, how he showed me off to his friends like I was something he owned. I'd known all this somewhere deep down, but hearing Haley say it out loud made it real, made it clear. We finally went to sleep around 3:30. Haley gave me her bed and took the couch. I lay there in the dark thinking about 6 years with Justin, how much time I wasted, but also how glad I was that I said no. Morning came too fast. Light through Haley's curtains woke me up at 6. I checked the time on her alarm clock. I was supposed to meet Antonio at the gym at 5. I'd missed our session. I found my phone on the coffee table where Haley left it. Turned it on. 53 notifications. I ignored all of them except I opened my messages and found Antonio's name. Texted him that I couldn't make training today. Then I typed out what happened last night. Kept it short. Said Justin proposed and I said no and I needed a day to deal with everything. Antonio responded in less than a minute. Said he was proud of me. Said I did the right thing. Offered to help if I needed anything. Said his support wasn't going anywhere. Reading his message made me start crying again. But different crying. Relief crying. Because Antonio's support never came with conditions or requirements or standards I had to meet. He just cared about me as a person. Not as a body or a trophy or something to show off. I wiped my eyes and called my mom. She answered on the second ring. Asked if I was okay because I never called this early. I told her everything. About Justin's proposal. About saying no. About all the cruel things he said that I'd been too ashamed to tell her before. The comments about my weight. How he said he was embarrassed to be seen with me. How he only proposed after I lost 40 pounds. Mom got quiet for a long time. Then she said she was furious. Said she never liked how Justin showed me off like a prize when I was thin, but treated me like a burden when I gained weight. Said she'd been biting her tongue for months hoping I'd figure it out myself. Said she was proud of me for walking away. We talked for almost an hour. By the time I hung up, Haley was awake making coffee in her kitchen. She poured me a cup. We sat at her small table. My phone buzzed. My sister Scarlett calling. I answered. She said Mom told her what happened, Said she was coming over. I gave her Haley's address. Scarlett showed up 40 minutes later with a grocery bag full of my favorite snacks, chips and cookies and chocolate. She hugged me tight in Haley's doorway. Said she took the day off work to help me figure out my next steps. We sat back down in Haley's living room. Scarlett looked at me and said she'd been waiting for me to leave Justin for 2 years. Said she saw how he changed after I gained weight. How he got mean and cold. How he stopped treating me like a girlfriend and more like a project he was disappointed in. She said she almost said something a dozen times, but knew I had to figure it out myself. Hearing this from my sister hurt, but also helped. Made me realize how obvious Justin's behavior was to everyone except me. We spent the next hour talking about practical things. I needed to get my stuff from Justin's apartment. My clothes, my books, photos, things that mattered. Scarlett said she was coming with me. No arguments. Said Justin was good at manipulating me and she wasn't going to let him talk me into anything. Haley said she'd come too. Said I needed 2 people there to keep me focused and stop Justin if he came home early from work. We made a plan. Justin worked until 5 on weekdays. We'd go at 2 when he'd definitely be at the office. Bring empty boxes and garbage bags. Get in and get out fast. That afternoon, the 3 of us drove to Justin's apartment in Scarlett's car. She had boxes in her trunk left over from her last move. We pulled into the parking lot at exactly 2:15. I had a key to Justin's place on my keyring. Had for 3 years. My hands shook when I tried to put the key in the lock. Took me 3 tries. The door finally opened. I stood in the doorway looking at the apartment. 6 years of my life happened in this space. The couch where we watched movies. The kitchen where I cooked him dinner. The bedroom where he stopped touching me. Scarlett put her hand on my back and gently pushed me inside. I started in the bedroom. My clothes hung next to his in the closet. 6 years of my life mixed with his. I pulled dresses off hangers and threw them on the bed. Scarlett brought in empty boxes from her trunk. Haley started in the bathroom grabbing my toiletries and makeup. I moved fast, not thinking, just grabbing. Sweaters, jeans, and the workout clothes I bought when I started training with Antonio. I reached for a box on the top shelf to pack shoes and knocked down a shoebox I'd never seen before. It fell open. Photos spilled across the floor. All of me. From when we first started dating. Me in a sundress at the beach. Me in jeans and a tank top at a barbecue. Me in a black dress at his company party. Every single photo showed me at my thinnest. I picked one up. There was writing on the back in Justin's handwriting. 9 out of 10. Great legs. I grabbed another. 8 out of 10. Needs better posture. Another. 10 out of 10. Perfect in this dress. My hands started shaking. I picked up more photos. He'd rated me. Like I was a product he was reviewing. Notes about my body in every single picture. Too much makeup. Hair looks better down. This angle hides her stomach. Scarlett came back into the bedroom and saw me sitting on the floor surrounded by photos. She knelt down and picked one up. Read the back. Her face went red. She didn't say anything. Just started taking photos out of the box one by one. Reading each note. Her jaw getting tighter with every word. There were at least 50 photos in that box. All rated. All commented on. All focused on how I looked. Not who I was or what we were doing or any actual memory. Just my appearance scored like a judge at a competition. Haley walked in with an armful of my bathroom stuff and saw us on the floor. She put everything down and came over. Looked at the photos. Started reading the notes. Her mouth fell open. She looked at me and I could see she was trying not to cry. I felt numb. Not even sad anymore. Just empty. This was who Justin really was. Someone who kept a secret box of rated photos of his girlfriend like some kind of weird science project. Scarlett stood up and walked out of the bedroom. I heard her in the living room. Then I heard her say a bad word. Really loud. Haley and I both got up and went to see what was wrong. Scarlett was standing at the dining table. Justin's laptop sat open. The screen was on. She pointed at it without saying anything. I walked over and looked. Dating apps. Multiple tabs open in his browser. One showed his profile on some site I'd never heard of. His photo, his bio, relationship status listed as single. I clicked through his browser history. 6 months of activity. Different dating sites. Women's profiles. Search filters set for fit body type and athletic build. Messages sent to dozens of women. Some responded, some didn't. He'd been actively looking for someone else while I was losing weight. While he was telling me to keep going. While he was posting about being proud of my journey. The whole time he had backup plans, other options, women who already looked the way he wanted. I felt sick. Scarlett grabbed my phone from my pocket and handed it to me. Take pictures of this. All of it. I didn't argue. I took photos of his profile, his messages, his search history showing months of activity, the filters he used, the types of women he contacted. All of them looked like me when we first met. Thin, conventionally pretty, the kind of women he could show off to his friends. Haley came over with the shoebox. Document this too. The rating notes. I took photos of several pages of his handwriting. His scores, his comments about my body, evidence of his obsession with my appearance, his need to rate and judge and control how I looked. We packed faster after that, threw things in boxes without folding them. I didn't care about being neat anymore. Just wanted to get out. Grabbed my books from the shelves, my photos from the walls, my kitchen stuff from the cabinets, things my dad gave me before he died, a blanket my mom made, items that actually mattered. 2 hours later, we had everything important packed. 6 boxes and 4 garbage bags. I left behind furniture and decorations and things Justin bought me. Didn't want any of it. I took my key off my keyring and put it on the kitchen counter. Wrote a note on a piece of paper. I'll get the rest later. Don't contact me. We carried boxes down to Scarlett's car in the parking lot. 3 trips up and down the stairs. I felt lighter with each box we loaded, like I was leaving weight behind instead of taking it with me. The physical stuff didn't matter. What mattered was getting away from someone who rated me like a product and shopped for replacements while pretending to support me. We were loading the last box when Justin's car pulled into the parking lot. He parked right behind Scarlett's car, blocked us in completely, got out and walked toward us. His face was red. He looked at the boxes in the trunk. At me. At Scarlett and Haley standing on either side of me. We need to talk. Alone. Scarlett crossed her arms. She's not going anywhere alone with you. Justin's jaw tightened. This is between me and Amy. Haley stepped closer to me. Anything you need to say, you can say in front of us. Justin looked at me like he expected me to tell them to leave. I didn't say anything. He ran his hand through his hair. Look, I didn't mean those things I said. About your weight. I was just trying to motivate you to be healthy. That's not how you motivate someone you love. Love doesn't come with a weight limit. He took a step closer. I backed up. You don't get it. I was helping you. Helping me? You called me fat. You said you were embarrassed to be seen with me. You stopped touching me. You made me feel worthless. That wasn't help. That was cruelty. It was motivation. Number. Motivation is support and encouragement. What you did was make love conditional on how I looked. And that's not love at all. His expression changed. Got harder. You're the one who embarrassed me. In front of everyone at that restaurant. All those people recording. You made me look like a fool. I made you look like a fool? You got down on one knee and proposed only after I lost 40 pounds. You treated me like garbage when I was grieving my dad. You only wanted to marry me when I met your physical standards. You made yourself look like a fool by thinking love works that way. Real love isn't conditional on dress size. That's not fair. What's not fair is 6 years of comments about my body. 6 years of being treated like a trophy when I was thin and a burden when I wasn't. What's not fair is finding out you were shopping for my replacement on dating apps while telling me you were proud of me. His face went white. You went through my laptop? Scarlett found it open. We saw everything. Your profiles, your messages, your search filters for athletic body types. You were looking for someone else the whole time I was killing myself at the gym trying to be good enough for you. Another car pulled into the parking lot. Justin's best friend Caleb got out and walked over. He looked at the boxes. At Justin. At me. What's going on? Justin gestured at me. She's throwing away 6 years over one bad moment. Caleb looked at me. Come on, Amy. You guys have been together forever. You can work through this. It wasn't one moment. It was years of him treating me differently based on how I looked. Years of cruel comments. Years of withdrawn affection when I didn't meet his standards. Years of being made to feel like I wasn't good enough unless I was thin. Caleb shook his head. Everyone has rough patches. You're making a huge mistake. The mistake was staying as long as I did. The mistake was thinking someone who only loved me when I looked a certain way actually loved me at all. Justin tried to move closer, but Scarlett blocked him. Move your car. We're leaving. Not until she agrees to talk to me properly. Without you two interfering. Haley pulled out her phone. Move your car or I'm calling the police. You're blocking us in. That's unlawful detention. Justin stared at her. You're not serious. Try me. Justin and Caleb looked at each other. Caleb said something quiet I couldn't hear. Justin's shoulders dropped. He walked back to his car. Moved it to a parking spot. Scarlett, Haley, and I got in the car fast. Scarlett started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot. I looked in the side mirror. Justin and Caleb were still standing there. Justin was yelling at Caleb about something. Getting smaller and smaller as we drove away. I felt relief. Not sadness. Not regret. Just relief that I was leaving. That I'd finally seen who he really was. That I'd chosen myself instead of trying to be what he wanted. Back at Haley's apartment, I finally turned on my phone. 37 missed calls from Justin. A dozen voicemails. I played the first one. His voice was apologetic. Baby, please call me back. We can work this out. The second one was angrier. You can't just walk away like this. After everything I've done for you. The third one was desperate. I love you. I made mistakes, but I love you. Please. I deleted them all. Didn't listen to the rest. I'd heard enough of his voice. Heard enough of his excuses and manipulation and attempts to make me feel guilty for choosing myself. Haley made tea. Scarlett ordered pizza. We sat in the living room and didn't talk about Justin. Talked about other things. Normal things. My job. Scarlett's new apartment. Haley's terrible date last week. Things that had nothing to do with 6 years of my life ending. Things that reminded me there was more to life than being someone's trophy or project or disappointment. That evening, my phone rang while Haley was clearing pizza boxes. Mom's name lit up the screen. I answered and she asked how I was holding up. I told her I was okay, staying at Haley's, trying to process everything. She was quiet for a second, then said Justin's mother had called her that afternoon. Asked her to convince me to reconsider because Justin was devastated, and the public rejection was humiliating for their family. Mom told her that Justin should have thought about how he treated me before getting down on one knee in front of a crowd. That she supported my decision completely, and wouldn't be pressuring me to go back to someone who only valued my appearance. I felt my throat get tight hearing that. Mom said she was proud of me for choosing myself, and that I could come stay with her anytime I needed space. I thanked her and we talked for a few more minutes before hanging up. The next day, I went back to work at the nonprofit. My desk was exactly how I'd left it 3 days ago, but everything felt different. My coworker Rachel noticed I wasn't wearing my usual smile and asked if I was all right. I kept it brief and told her Justin and I had broken up. She squeezed my shoulder and said she was sorry. Word spread fast in a small office. By lunch, 3 other coworkers had stopped by my desk with supportive comments and offers to grab coffee if I needed to talk. My supervisor pulled me aside around 2 and said she'd noticed I seemed distracted, offered me flexible hours for the next week if I needed time to process everything. I told her I appreciated it, but work was actually a good distraction. She nodded and said the offer stood if I changed my mind. That evening, Antonio texted asking if I was ready to resume training. I stared at my phone for a minute, then typed, yes. We agreed to meet at the gym the following morning at 5 a.m. like usual. I showed up in the dark parking lot at 4:50, and Antonio was already inside setting up equipment. He didn't ask about Justin or the proposal, just put me through a brutal workout that had my muscles screaming and sweat pouring. Deadlifts, box jumps, kettlebell swings, burpees until I couldn't think about anything except breathing and moving. When we finished, I was shaking and exhausted, but the anger and frustration that had been sitting in my chest felt lighter. Antonio handed me a water bottle and said good work. After I caught my breath, we grabbed coffee at the place next door like we sometimes did. Sat at a corner table with our protein shakes and breakfast sandwiches. Antonio looked at me across the table and said he was glad I said no to Justin. That I deserved someone who loved me at any size, not someone who only wanted me when I looked a certain way. His words hit me harder than the workout had. I realized sitting there that our friendship over the past 5 months meant more than 6 years with Justin. Antonio had seen me struggle and fail and succeed, and never once made me feel less than enough. The next few days, Justin started showing up everywhere. Outside my workplace at 5:30 when I left for the day. Parked across from Haley's apartment building when I got home. I'd see his car and my stomach would drop. He left notes on my windshield asking to talk, saying he made a mistake, that he loved me and we could work through this. I threw them away without reading past the first line. Haley noticed his car outside her building 3 nights in a row and said it was getting creepy. Scarlett called me the following evening and said I should stay with Mom for a while. That Justin knowing where Haley lived and showing up there wasn't safe. I didn't want to agree because moving back to my childhood bedroom felt like going backward. But Scarlett was right. I packed a bag and drove to Mom's house that night. She had my old room ready with fresh sheets and said I could stay as long as I needed. Sleeping in my twin bed surrounded by high school photos felt strange, but also comforting in a way I didn't expect. A week after the proposal, Haley texted me a link. Someone had posted a video of the restaurant scene on social media. I watched myself say no and walk out while Justin stayed frozen on one knee. The video had been shared hundreds of times around our city. Several people in the comments recognized us. Most of the comments were supportive, saying I did the right thing, and that Justin's proposal speech was gross. A few said I was cruel for rejecting him publicly, but those got ratioed by other commenters pointing out he chose to propose publicly, so he got rejected publicly. The video kept getting shared. By the end of the week, it had thousands of views. My phone rang 2 days later and I didn't recognize the number. Answered it anyway. Justin's brother was on the other end. Not Justin's mother this time, but his actual brother, whose name was also Justin, but everyone called him JK. He said he wanted to apologize for how his brother treated me. That he'd tried to talk to Justin about the weight comments months ago, but Justin wouldn't listen. JK admitted their family placed too much importance on appearance, and that Justin learned those values from their parents. He said he was sorry I had to deal with that for 6 years, and that I made the right choice walking away. I thanked him, and we talked for a few more minutes before hanging up. His apology meant something because it came without expectation or pressure. The next week, I started seeing a therapist. Found one who specialized in relationship trauma through my insurance. Sat in her office and told her everything about the past 6 years, the comments about my weight, the withdrawn affection, the conditional love. She listened and took notes, and when I finished, she said what Justin did was emotionally abusive. That making someone's worth dependent on their appearance was manipulation. That leaving was the healthiest choice I could have made. Hearing a professional validate what I'd been feeling helped something click into place. I wasn't overreacting or being dramatic. I was protecting myself from someone who hurt me. A few days later, Antonio texted and asked if I wanted to grab dinner sometime. Not as trainer and client, but as friends who enjoyed each other's company. I said yes immediately. We went to a casual Italian restaurant where the tables had red checkered cloths and candles in wine bottles. I ordered chicken parmesan without looking at the calories or thinking about whether Justin would approve. Antonio ordered lasagna, and we split garlic bread. We talked about everything except fitness and Justin. His family, my job, movies we'd seen, places we wanted to travel. The food was good and the conversation was easy, and I realized I was smiling more than I had in months. During dessert, Antonio got quiet for a minute and then told me about his ex from 2 years ago. She worked in finance and made good money and constantly put down his career as a personal trainer. Said he was wasting his potential and should get a real job with benefits and a retirement plan. She wanted him to wear different clothes and act different around her work friends and basically become someone else entirely. He stayed longer than he should have because he kept thinking maybe she had a point and maybe he should want those things. But one day he realized he was miserable pretending to be someone he wasn't, and he left. He looked at me across the table and said watching me walk away from Justin reminded him why he made that choice. That we both deserved people who loved us exactly as we were without conditions or requirements. I felt something shift in my chest hearing him say that, because Justin never once loved me without conditions attached. The next morning, a delivery truck pulled up to my mom's house while I was having coffee in the kitchen. The driver carried in a huge arrangement of roses and lilies with a card that said, Justin would wait as long as it took for me to forgive him and come back. My mom read the card over my shoulder and made a disgusted sound. I carried the whole arrangement straight to the garage and dumped it in the trash bin without a second thought. Then I pulled out my phone and blocked Justin's number on everything including social media and email. Mom squeezed my shoulder and said she was proud of me for not giving him another chance to manipulate me into feeling guilty. 2 days later, my supervisor called me into her office at the nonprofit, and I thought maybe I was in trouble for being distracted. Instead, she offered me a promotion to program coordinator with a salary bump to $52,000. She said I'd been dedicated to the organization for 3 years, and my work on the recent grant proposal showed I was ready for more responsibility. I accepted immediately and probably said thank you 5 times before leaving her office. The timing felt perfect, like the universe was supporting my decision to start fresh without Justin holding me back from opportunities. That weekend, I went apartment hunting and found a 1-bedroom place 3 blocks from my office. The rent was affordable and the building was older but well-maintained with hardwood floors and big windows. I signed the lease that afternoon and texted Scarlett and Haley to tell them I had my own place for the first time ever. They both showed up the day I got the keys with boxes and cleaning supplies ready to help me move. We spent the whole day carrying my stuff from Mom's house, and by evening we were sitting on the floor of my empty living room eating pizza and drinking wine straight from the bottle. Scarlett kept saying how good it felt to have me back, and Haley made a toast to new beginnings and leaving trash men in the past. The following Saturday, Antonio showed up at my apartment with tools and offered to help me put together the furniture I'd ordered. We spent 8 hours building bookshelves and a coffee table and a TV stand while music played from my phone. He made jokes about the confusing instruction diagrams and did silly voices while reading the parts list out loud. I laughed more that afternoon than I had in months with Justin, and realized how easy everything felt with Antonio, compared to constantly walking on eggshells around Justin's moods and judgments. By the time we finished building everything, my face hurt from smiling so much. And that same week, Justin's mother showed up at my mom's house demanding to speak with me. My mom answered the door and told her firmly that I'd moved out and didn't want contact with Justin or his family. Justin's mother tried arguing that her son made a mistake and I should give him another chance, but my mom said his behavior caused this situation, and I was moving forward with my life. She closed the door while Justin's mother was still talking. Mom called me later to tell me what happened and said she was proud of how I was handling everything and that I seemed happier than I'd been in years. Hearing that from her meant everything, because she'd watched me shrink into myself during those 6 years with Justin. 3 weeks after the breakup, I ran into Justin at the grocery store while I was picking out vegetables in the produce section. He walked up and tried starting a conversation asking how I was doing and saying we should talk. I looked at him and said we had nothing to discuss and walked away toward the checkout. For the first time ever, he didn't follow me or keep trying to convince me. I finished shopping and drove home and realized I felt nothing seeing him except relief that I wasn't trapped in that relationship anymore. My therapist helped me work through some complicated feelings during our next session. She pointed out that I'd lost weight for Justin's approval, rather than my own health, and that I needed to figure out my actual relationship with fitness, separate from his demands. We talked about how I genuinely enjoyed training with Antonio now, and how it made me feel strong and capable instead of constantly judged. I decided to keep working out because I liked it, not because anyone expected it from me. That shift in perspective made everything feel different, like I was finally doing something for myself instead of performing for someone else's standards. Antonio and I started spending more time together outside the gym over the next few weeks. We went on weekend hikes at state parks and tried new restaurants around the city and went to a street festival downtown. Our friendship kept getting deeper without any pressure or expectations hanging over us. Everything felt natural and comfortable in a way my relationship with Justin never did. I could be myself completely without worrying about saying the wrong thing or looking the wrong way or eating the wrong food. Antonio just accepted me exactly as I was, and I realized that's what I'd been missing for 6 years. One afternoon, Haley mentioned she'd heard through mutual friends that Justin was already dating someone new. Apparently, she was exactly his type, meaning she fit his physical ideal perfectly with the right body type and the right look. Instead of feeling jealous or hurt, I actually felt sorry for her. She had no idea yet how conditional his affection would be, or how quickly he'd withdraw his love if she gained weight or stopped meeting his standards. I hoped she'd figure it out faster than I did, and get out before wasting 6 years waiting for a proposal that would only come with requirements attached. The next weekend, I went shopping alone for the first time in years. I drove to the mall and walked through stores I'd avoided because Justin always said they made me look frumpy or cheap. I tried on a deep green sweater that looked nothing like the tight black clothes he preferred, and bought it without asking anyone's opinion. The dressing room mirror showed someone I barely recognized. Someone picking clothes because she liked them instead of wondering if they made her look thin enough. I bought 3 new work outfits, a comfortable pair of jeans and 2 dresses that actually fit my new body instead of trying to hide it. At the checkout counter, I handed over my credit card and felt something shift inside me, like I was buying clothes for a person who actually existed instead of performing for someone else. The bags felt heavy walking back to my car, but in a good way, like I was carrying proof that I could make choices just for myself. Mom called on Tuesday to invite me to Thanksgiving, and mentioned she didn't invite Justin this year even though his mother asked her to. She said the holiday would be just family, and that she wanted it to be peaceful without any tension or awkwardness. Thanksgiving morning, I drove to her house and helped her make stuffing while Scarlett set the table and complained about her dating life. We laughed more during dinner than we had in years, and I realized how much energy I'd spent during previous holidays trying to make sure Justin was comfortable and impressed with my family. Mom made my favorite pumpkin pie and didn't mention my weight or ask if I wanted a small piece. We watched football afterward, and I fell asleep on the couch feeling full and content, without any guilt about what I'd eaten or how I looked. Antonio texted me the next week asking if I wanted to come to a holiday party his gym was hosting on Saturday night. I showed up wearing one of my new dresses, and immediately felt nervous walking into a room full of fit people who all seemed to know each other. Antonio spotted me right away and came over with a huge smile, introducing me to his friends and the other trainers who worked at the gym. Everyone was nice and asked about my training progress, and several people mentioned that Antonio talked about me all the time. One of the female trainers teased him about how he always brings me up during staff meetings, and I watched his face turn red while he tried to change the subject. We stood by the food table talking for over an hour, and I noticed how comfortable everything felt with him, how I wasn't worried about saying the wrong thing or looking the wrong way. After the party ended, Antonio walked me to my car in the parking lot. The December air felt cold, and I could see my breath in the streetlight. He stopped next to my car and looked at me with an expression I'd seen before, but never let myself acknowledge. He said he needed to tell me something, and that he'd been thinking about it for weeks. He admitted he'd developed feelings for me that went beyond friendship, but didn't want to pressure me since I'd just left a long relationship. His words hung in the cold air between us, and I felt my heart speed up. I told him I'd been feeling the same way but needed time to heal first, and his whole face relaxed like he'd been holding his breath waiting for my answer. He asked if I'd want to try dating when I felt ready, and I said I already felt ready, that he'd shown me what real support looked like, and I didn't want to waste more time being afraid. We started dating officially the next week and took everything slowly. Antonio planned simple dates like coffee shops and walks in the park instead of fancy restaurants where I'd feel on display. He never commented on what I ordered or how much I ate, just seemed happy to be spending time with me. When I mentioned feeling insecure about my body after years of Justin's criticism, Antonio listened without trying to fix it or tell me I was being ridiculous. He consistently showed through small actions that he valued who I was as a person, like remembering details about my work projects and asking thoughtful questions about my family. We kissed for the first time after our 3rd official date, and it felt completely different from kissing Justin, like I wasn't being evaluated or judged but actually wanted. 2 weeks into dating, Justin found out about my relationship with Antonio through social media. My phone exploded with angry messages calling Antonio unprofessional and accusing him of pursuing me while I was vulnerable. Justin wrote that Antonio took advantage of me during a difficult time, and that real trainers don't date their clients. He sent multiple texts saying I'd been manipulated, and that he was considering reporting Antonio to the gym management. I read through all the messages feeling my stomach turn, then blocked Justin on every platform I could think of. I refused to respond or engage with his attempts to make me feel guilty for moving on with my life. Antonio saw the messages before I blocked Justin and got quiet for a minute before saying he was sorry I had to deal with that and asking if I wanted him to respond. I told him Justin didn't deserve any more of our energy. My next therapy session focused on processing the guilt Justin tried to create with those messages. My therapist pointed out that his anger came from losing control over me rather than genuine hurt feelings about the relationship ending. She reminded me that I had every right to move forward with my life, and that Justin's opinion about my choices didn't matter anymore. We talked about how abusers often try to interfere with new relationships because they can't stand seeing their former partners happy without them. She said the fact that I immediately blocked him instead of defending myself showed real growth, and that I should be proud of setting that boundary. I left her office feeling more confident that I'd made the right choice with Antonio, and that Justin's manipulation tactics wouldn't work on me anymore. 3 months after the breakup, I was thriving at my new job as senior program coordinator. My supervisor praised my work on a grant proposal that brought in $50,000 for our programs, and my coworkers started coming to me for advice on their projects. My relationship with Antonio kept growing stronger through honest conversations about our needs and boundaries. We talked about past relationships and what we wanted for the future without any games or hidden expectations. Everything felt balanced and healthy in ways my relationship with Justin never did, like we were building something together instead of me constantly trying to meet impossible standards. Antonio met my family at a casual dinner and everyone loved him, especially Mom, who pulled me aside later to say she could see how happy I was. Scarlett came over to my apartment one evening and we sat on my couch drinking wine while she scrolled through old photos on her phone. She stopped on a picture from 2 years ago at a family barbecue and showed it to me. I looked exhausted in the photo, my smile forced and my posture tense. Scarlett said I seemed like a completely different person now, more confident and genuinely happy instead of constantly anxious about meeting impossible standards. She told me she had her real sister back after watching Justin slowly diminish my personality over 6 years. I started crying and she hugged me, saying she was so proud of me for leaving and for building a life that actually made me happy. We stayed up late talking about everything I'd been through and everything that was different now, and I felt grateful to have people in my life who actually wanted me to be happy. Antonio and I took a weekend trip to the mountains in late February. We drove up Friday after work and spent Saturday hiking trails through pine forests. The air felt crisp and clean, and I could see my breath as we climbed higher. We reached a scenic overlook around noon and sat on a flat rock eating sandwiches while looking out over the valley below. Antonio got quiet for a minute and then said he needed to tell me something. He said he was falling in love with me, and that being with me felt natural and right in a way nothing else in his life ever had. I felt tears start in my eyes and told him I was falling in love with him too. We sat there holding hands and looking at the mountains, and everything felt perfect without any performance or conditions attached. This was what love was supposed to feel like, and I'd wasted 6 years not knowing the difference. 2 weeks after the mountain trip, I stopped at a coffee shop near my apartment to grab something before work. The place was busy with the morning rush, and I stood in line checking my phone when someone tapped my shoulder. I turned around and saw Caleb Torres standing there holding a coffee cup and looking uncomfortable. He asked if we could talk for a minute, and I almost said no, but something about his expression made me agree. We moved to a corner table away from the crowd, and he sat down across from me looking at his hands. He said he needed to apologize for what he said at Justin's apartment that day when I was moving out. He told me he was wrong to try convincing me to stay, and that he didn't understand the full situation back then. Caleb explained that Justin had been angry and miserable since I left, and was taking it out on everyone around him, including their whole friend group. He said Justin blamed everyone else for what happened and refused to admit he did anything wrong. Caleb looked up at me and said he finally understood why I needed to leave after watching Justin's behavior over the past few months. He told me Justin was the same person he'd always been, but Caleb just hadn't wanted to see it before. I thanked him for the apology and told him I appreciated it, but that I'd moved on completely. He nodded and said he could tell I looked happier than he'd ever seen me with Justin. We talked for a few more minutes about nothing important, and then I left to head to work feeling oddly satisfied that even Justin's best friend could see the truth now. My 1-year work anniversary at the nonprofit fell on the same week we received confirmation about a major grant I'd helped write and submit. The grant brought in $75,000 for our youth programs, and my supervisor called a staff meeting to announce the funding. She stood at the front of our conference room and talked about the team effort, but then specifically praised my contributions to the proposal. She said my research and writing had been important to securing the grant, and that the organization was lucky to have me. My coworkers clapped and several people congratulated me after the meeting ended. I sat at my desk afterward feeling proud of something I'd accomplished that had nothing to do with how I looked or what anyone thought of my appearance. This success came from my skills and hard work and dedication to the mission. Nobody cared what size clothes I wore or whether I matched some standard of physical perfection. They valued what I contributed and the results I produced. I spent the rest of the day working on program plans for how we'd use the grant money and felt more confident in my professional abilities than I ever had during my years with Justin. Antonio met my family the following weekend at a casual dinner Mom hosted at her house. I'd been nervous about it all week, but Antonio seemed completely relaxed when we arrived. Mom answered the door and immediately pulled him into a hug, saying she'd heard so much about him. Scarlett was already in the kitchen helping cook, and she came out to introduce herself with a big smile. We all sat around the dining table eating Mom's pot roast, and Antonio fit right in with the conversation. He asked Mom about her garden and listened to Scarlett talk about her job and shared funny stories about training clients at the gym. Nobody mentioned Justin once during dinner, which felt like a relief. After we finished eating, Mom asked me to help her get dessert from the kitchen, and once we were alone, she grabbed my hand. She said she could see how happy I was, and that it showed in everything about me. She told me Antonio looked at me the way someone should look at the person they love, and that she was glad I found someone who valued me properly. She said she'd worried about me during those last years with Justin because I'd seemed so small and anxious all the time. Now I seemed like myself again, but stronger and more confident. I hugged her and felt grateful that my family could see the difference too. A week later, I got a text from someone I knew casually from Justin's friend group, asking if I'd be willing to meet Justin to talk about closure. The message said Justin wanted to apologize properly and discuss ending things on better terms. I stared at my phone for a minute, thinking about how to respond. Then I typed back that I had all the closure I needed and asked that Justin respect my boundaries by not contacting me again through mutual friends or any other method. I said I'd moved on completely and had no interest in revisiting our relationship or hearing apologies that should have come months ago. I hit send and blocked the mutual friend's number because I didn't want to deal with any follow-up messages trying to convince me otherwise. Antonio was at my apartment when this happened, and I showed him the exchange. He asked if I was okay, and I realized I genuinely was. I felt nothing about Justin trying to reach out except mild annoyance that he couldn't accept my decision. Antonio said he was proud of me for maintaining my boundaries, and we spent the rest of the evening cooking dinner together and watching movies. The mutual friend managed to reach me through social media a few days later before I could block that account too. She sent a long message saying she'd delivered my response to Justin, and that he seemed genuinely surprised I was serious about never speaking to him again. She said he acted like he expected me to eventually forgive him and come back once I'd had time to cool off. The message described how Justin kept saying I was overreacting, and that couples fight and make up all the time. He apparently told their whole friend group that I was being dramatic, and that I'd realize I made a mistake soon enough. Reading this made me feel even more certain I'd made the right choice. Justin still didn't understand what he did wrong or why his behavior was unacceptable. He saw our breakup as a temporary fight rather than the end of a relationship where he'd spent years treating me terribly. He thought I'd come crawling back because he couldn't imagine that I'd actually choose to leave him permanently. I blocked the mutual friend on social media and told Antonio about the message that night. He said Justin's reaction proved I made the right call because someone who truly understood their mistakes wouldn't expect automatic forgiveness. Antonio and I celebrated 6 months together with a quiet dinner at the Italian restaurant, where we'd had our first date as more than friends. He'd made a reservation, and we sat at the same corner table where we'd eaten that first time. The waiter brought bread, and we talked about how different everything felt now compared to 6 months ago. Antonio reached across the table and took my hand and said he had something for me. He pulled out a small wrapped box, and I opened it to find a silver bracelet with a tiny charm that said strong in simple letters. He told me he saw it and immediately thought of me because strength was what he admired most about me. Not physical strength from training, but the strength to leave a bad situation and build a better life. I put the bracelet on right away and told him I'd wear it every day as a reminder of how far I'd come. We finished dinner and walked around downtown holding hands, and I felt completely content with where my life was now. My therapist brought up the idea of ending our regular sessions during our next appointment. She said I'd made significant progress in rebuilding my self-esteem and establishing healthy relationship patterns over the past several months. She explained that I'd done the hard work of healing, and that I should feel proud of my growth. We could transition to meeting once a month or as needed rather than weekly. I felt a mix of emotions hearing this because therapy had been such an important part of my recovery from Justin's treatment. But I also recognized that she was right about my progress. I could identify unhealthy patterns now and set boundaries and choose relationships that added value to my life. I didn't need constant guidance anymore because I'd developed the tools to navigate situations myself. We agreed to meet monthly going forward with the option to increase frequency if needed. Walking out of her office that day, I felt accomplished knowing I'd put in the work to heal properly. 2 weeks later, my supervisor called me into her office and told me the organization wanted to promote me to senior program coordinator with a salary increase to $58,000. She said my work on the grant and my leadership on several projects had demonstrated I was ready for more responsibility. I accepted immediately and felt excited about the new role and the financial security it provided. That weekend, I took Mom and Scarlett and Haley out to a nice restaurant to celebrate. We sat at a table by the window and they ordered a bottle of wine and toasted to my success and independence. Mom said she was proud of how I'd rebuilt my life and career. Scarlett said I was killing it professionally and personally. Haley reminded me how far I'd come from that night I showed up at her apartment after rejecting Justin's proposal. I looked around the table at these 3 women who'd supported me through everything and felt genuinely grateful for their presence in my life. Antonio told me a few days later that he'd been offered a position managing a new gym location across town. He seemed excited but also hesitant when he explained it would mean slightly different training schedules for us. I could tell he was worried about how I'd react to the change. I told him immediately that he should take the opportunity because I wanted him to pursue his career goals. We'd figure out the schedule together and make it work because his professional growth mattered just as much as mine. He looked relieved and said he'd been nervous to bring it up because he didn't want me to think he was prioritizing work over our relationship. I reminded him that healthy relationships meant supporting each other's goals and that I'd never ask him to turn down a good opportunity. We spent that evening talking about his plans for the new location, and I felt happy seeing him excited about his future. 6 months after the breakup, I realized one morning that I hadn't thought about Justin in weeks. When I did think about him now, I felt nothing but relief that I'd left. My life was fuller and happier than it ever was during our 6 years together. I had a job I loved that paid well and recognized my contributions. I had a relationship with Antonio built on mutual respect and genuine care. I had family and friends who supported me unconditionally. I had confidence in myself that didn't depend on meeting someone else's standards. Looking back at the person I was in that restaurant when Justin proposed felt like looking at a stranger. That version of me was so focused on earning his approval that she'd lost herself completely. Now I knew exactly who I was and what I deserved, and I'd never settle for less again. Antonio and I started looking at apartments together after dating for 8 months. We found a 2-bedroom place near both our jobs with big windows and a decent kitchen. The second bedroom became a home gym with space for both our equipment. Moving day felt exciting instead of stressful because we worked together instead of him telling me where everything should go. Antonio asked what I wanted before making decisions about furniture placement or wall colors. We painted the living room together and got paint all over each other and laughed instead of fighting about doing it wrong. Setting up our home felt like building something together, rather than fitting into someone else's space. I kept thinking about how Justin controlled every detail of his apartment and never asked my opinion about anything. Antonio wanted my input on everything from which couch to buy to how to organize the kitchen cabinets. 3 weeks after we moved in, my mom called to tell me she ran into Justin's mother at the grocery store. She said Justin got engaged to the woman he started dating a few months after we broke up. Mom asked if I was okay hearing that news. I realized I felt nothing except sorry for his new fiancé. I hoped she had better luck than I did, but suspected Justin hadn't changed his standards or conditions. Mom said she told Justin's mother that I was very happy now and didn't ask any questions about him. I appreciated her protecting me from more information I didn't need or want. 2 months later, Antonio and I finished our usual morning workout at the gym. We were the only ones there at 5:30 on a Tuesday. He asked me to wait a minute before heading to the showers. He got down on one knee right there on the gym floor where we first met. No audience, no phones recording, no performance. He said he loved me exactly as I was right now and would love me exactly as I would be in the future. He said he wanted to build a life with me based on who we both really were. I said yes immediately because I knew he meant every word. The ring was simple and perfect, and he put it on my hand with shaking fingers. We sat on the gym floor together for a while, just holding each other before going home to call our families. Now I'm planning our wedding with Antonio, and it feels completely different from how I imagined planning with Justin. We're picking things we both like instead of what looks best for photos. Small ceremony with close friends and family instead of a big show. I keep thinking about that moment in the restaurant when I said no to Justin's proposal. Saying no to his conditional love was the first time I chose myself in 6 years. Everything good in my life now came from that one decision. My job that values my work. My relationship with Antonio built on respect. My confidence that doesn't depend on meeting someone else's standards. I've never been happier or more sure of who I am.